Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Ryan here, going to do a program design for a client, really for a coworker. And all I'm going to do is NAS. I'm going to program his 3 lifts. He's my first victim, client. Just kidding. I don't have anybody that is in any reasonable fitness shape. I really only work with regular people, not really like a physique competitor like NAS. I asked him if I could do his programming for his big 3 lifts, or in this case 4 lifts, because we're including the overhead press. And then there's a spreadsheet that I use as a way to kind of do his programming. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm using my own knowledge along with the stuff I've learned from Dan Green seminars, the Q method, RTS training, just a lot of Pavel stuff, what I know about NASM, just a lot of stuff in my own training I'm going to apply to him. And I'm kind of recording it because I'm going to think out loud. And I don't know if this is going to have any value, but I'd figure I'd plan out at least the next 2 or 3 weeks. But what I'm going to start by doing is just kind of figuring out his rep maxes. His deadlift rep max is 405 for 4. Now, deadlift is sort of interesting because it doesn't really fit in the same realm as most lifts, because it's not like a touch and go lift. Well, I guess you could make it maybe he does do touch and go, but I don't know. I think deadlift is in a different category for the simple reason that it just is. It's typically, when you do a deadlift for reps, at least paused reps, you're pausing at the bottom, you're having the bar is dead, and it's not quite the same. So just because you can do hypothetically 500 pounds for 8 reps doesn't mean you can do, well, let's go see this calculator here. 500 pound deadlift for 10 reps for, let's say, 8 repetitions, right? You theoretically can deadlift 621. And I don't think Johnny Candido has actually deadlifted 621. But of course, this deadlift, because I'll use 8 reps because Johnny Candido did a 500 pound deadlift for a max rep of 8, I think. I can't remember if that's the exact number. I apologize if that's incorrect. But I like to use this as a guide, as I kind of, because a lot of stuff in my knowledge is really experiential science stuff that I learned from my certifications and experience, my own training, along with obviously bro science. There is some science into bro science. Some of it is not quite explainable. There's actually an article that's interesting, but I'm getting off topic, so let me stay focused here. So 405 for 4 reps. His predicted 1 rep max is 442, which I think is pretty close. And this gives me some ideas. I use 405 for a 4 rep max because not everyone knows their 1 rep max, and even then their 1 rep max is not really a good point to measure. And the reason why it's not a good point to measure is because something like, for me, for example, my 1 rep max deadlift is 551, but that's in competition. That's with a Texas deadlift bar. That's with like 6 days of rest. It's sort of a different setup, Same thing with the squat, But looking at this again, weight lifted 442 is his predicted rep max, and for the first week, this is his first week right here. And just in case, I'll explain this. I'll explain the spreadsheet in a second. But part of what you're going to do in this video, in case you watch the whole thing through, is I guess I'm making this video for Nas so he gets an understanding kind of how I think, but also for anyone out there who wants to get an idea of kind of how I think when it comes to not personal training, but when it comes to powerlifting and training. So really what I want to focus on is just really getting good technique out of Nas. So it's really focusing on improving his technique, which means we don't want him anything above 90%. So we want to make sure that his reps are good, his reps are clean, and just really focus on building volume. This is very specific to this lift. I'm pretty sure we're going to use sumo as the main guide, as his main lift, and we'll still do conventional in there. But since we're going to use 405 as our main lift, we're going to take... I'm not going to be able to explain everything why I'm doing the stuff, but at least you can get an idea of kind of my experiential knowledge and how I apply it. I'll probably do 376, or we'll just round down to 365. So we'll do a deadlift 365 as kind of his first week of training, and we're going to do a very, very non-aggressive 3 sets of 5. That's what I'm going to do. So 365 for 3 by 5. And why am I picking that? I really don't know, honestly. It's just a good amount of volume for him to work at. Actually, that's not right. Let's do... that's actually a lot of reps. Let's do 2 good reps of 5. And that's his main pull, which is sumo deadlift. It's what he's most proficient in. And then we're going to add some sumo... some conventional deadlift. And we're going to stick to doing conventional deadlift at probably the same amount, because I know he has a really strong back. So we'll do 365 at 2 sets of 5. And we'll do it in that order, because I think that would be a really good way for him. Because here, on the first set, he's strengthening his hips, and the second exercise, he's strengthening his his back, or more so his back. And since he's fairly proficient on both of them, he's a lot more proficient than me for sure on sumo deadlift. So this is sumo pull, and then this is conventional, and that's really it. There's really nothing else to it, you know. Of course, there's some warm-up sets that are built up into it, but it's a very low volume because he's just getting back into it. Second deadlift day will probably be, again, a kind of a practice day for 315. Probably 2x8, you know, or maybe even 1x8. We'll just keep it that way. Let's go see if we can even adhere to this, because it's kind of, the volume is kind of low. PR bench attempts. His PR is recent PR is 265 for 4. This is a touch and go bench. So taking a look at this one rep max calculator. Now I'm using the one rep max calculator as a guide for kind of how I'm choosing numbers, and a lot of based on how I choose numbers is really based on experience as well as the use of this guide. So 265 puts him at a 389 pound 1 repetition max predicted. 265 puts him at basically a little over 90% for 4 repetitions. So let's keep him around 80 percentiles, and we'll do 231. We'll just do 230. So we'll do 230 for, let's go see here. What would be a good volume for him to do? Something that's not aggressive. So let's do, because 265 is a repetition max, fully healthy. So let's do 230 for, man, what do I want? 5 sets of 4. And based on 80%, I really don't think it's really his 80% because I think he can bench more than that. But I'm just going to use this as a guide. So 5 sets of 4. So sets are first, and then second bench day will be, what do I want the second bench day to be? Triceps are big, so probably wide grip bench. So this will be a wide grip bench day. And also, just as a clarification, he can actually just use he can actually merge day 1 and day 2 together if necessary. But I mean, these are just guides. He's got, if he's not used to doing wide grip bench, I'm assuming he's not. It's going to take a proficiency. It doesn't take very long, but definitely it's going to affect the workout. So we'll just say 185 by 10 by 2 by 10, 2 sets of 10. And basically you can do this in the same day. I'm only doing it over 2 days for the simple fact there's flexibility. So for example, if he does bench of a person, it could just be anybody, we'll use NAS, 230 pounds for 5 sets of 4. Let's say he does that, and then let's say he feels good enough or he has time, he'll do the wide grip bench on that same day, or he'll do it on a different day. Kind of depends. Then we got work sets, 575 for 4. 275 for 4, that puts him at so the squat's interesting because, you know, squat is really more of a lot of technique. I guess everything is really technique, I guess you can say, but his predicted 1 rep max is 309. So if his rep max is at 4, so let's keep it at, I like to stay at 80%, so let's go to 250 as a kind of as his work set. So he's going to work himself up to sets 250 by 4 by 5. 4 sets of 5. That's a pretty good amount of volume. And then on the second squat day, we're probably going to take probably 225. I'm pretty sure, because he's still working on this technique, 225 is going to be too light for him. So, but we'll just use this as, again, this is just the first week, 8. So we'll do 3 sets of 8. And these are all pause reps. So these are pause bench, pause squat. So there's a 2-second pause or 3-second pause, which means this requires a great deal of skill, endurance, lots of stuff, like being tight at the bottom. And then overhead press work, we'll just keep it pretty simple. Essentially what I'm following, which is 145, 5 by 5. You know, and that would be just the main work. So that's actually a good amount of work right there. This doesn't include any accessories. He can do whatever he wants for accessories. But the main important thing is that he is able to maintain this workload. So this is actually quite a bit of work already. Let's go and make this a little wider. And let's go see here. And I think that's what we'll keep it at. And then the following week, we're going to go up. We might change things, but most likely, I'm just going to say, everything's going to go up about, probably on the deadlift, it's probably going to go up about 15 pounds. So I'll just write that in, 15 pounds plus. Same thing with this one, about 15 pounds. Actually, this is a kind of a work day, so just 10 pounds. Plus bench temp will probably go up 5 pounds. Oops. So 5 pounds plus, and then bench day again 5 pounds plus again. And part of what I'm doing is I'm just basically making it so that there's predictable progress. I know without a doubt he can pretty much confidently hit all these numbers, maybe except for this day. 145 5x5 is pretty hard. This day here is probably a little bit hard. So I'm just going to keep it like, actually, you know, let's do this. Let's take this 6. Again, we're trying to be not very aggressive with this first week, because next week you can either up the weight or up the reps. So this week we'll probably up the reps, increase reps. And then here, this will probably stay the same. So nothing equals, so 0, no change. Okay, so that's going to be basically what it looks like. I'm going to fill in the numbers here depending on how the week goes for him, and that's what it's going to be. So I think this should be enough. So just kind of as a recap of his program, it goes for the first week after his deload will be sumo deadlift, 2 sets of 5, sumo deadlift 365, then he does 2 sets of 5 conventional 365, which actually is quite a bit. I wonder if I want to take that back. Yeah, let's take that back. Let's take a look at this 1 rep max calculator again. 405 for 4. Let's do 345. 345 convention for 2 sets of 5. And I should mention that these are all rest pause. Rest pause. No touch and go. So I'll just put some, because I know NAS has a tendency to always do touch and go deadlifts, and I don't want that, because that's going to keep changing his technique. Touch and go is great, but again, this is just a base template for him for the first week, and then we'll see how the week goes. Most likely it's going to go exactly as planned, because this is meant to be very non-aggressive, assuming he doesn't do a bunch of other accessory work. I like doing stuff that makes sense for people. In his case, he still has flexibility to do his, arms and shoulders, other accessory work. But what's important is he's able to maintain this work capacity for each of these days. So if he does too much work on another day, like just trying different things, like messing with cleans and front squats and whatnot, he can still do front squats, but most of that stuff shouldn't interfere with this, because it'll be much lower intensity. But I don't know if you guys got anything out of this, or if anyone that watched this. But anyways, these are how I'm picking numbers, and I wish I had some scientific way of looking at it, but this is just kind of how I choose things. Part of it's because I've seen him squat, and I've seen his lifts, and I have a good sense for kind of how he moves, at least. I don't know if it would. I wonder if it would change a whole lot if, I don't know. Because I'm not training him one-on-one. I'm just essentially doing his programming. Anyways, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you guys later.